When I watched my clothes flying through the air, landing in muddy puddles on the front lawn, I never imagined that moment would become the turning point of my entire life. My daughter-in-law stood on the porch, her face twisted with contempt, screaming words that still echo in my mind. "You're nothing but a burden, me. Get out of my house." What she didn't know, what she couldn't have known, was that the deed she was screaming about was sitting in my purse. The same purse she'd just thrown into the rose bushes. My name is Me. I'm 72 years old, and this is the story of how I lost everything I thought I knew about family, and found something far more valuable, my own strength. Let me take you back to where this all started, because the woman who stood silent in that moment of humiliation is not the woman I am today. 3 years ago, my life looked perfect from the outside. I'd been widowed for 5 years after my husband Harold passed from a heart attack, and I'd spent those years learning to live alone in the house we'd built together 40 years prior. It was a beautiful 3-bedroom ranch-style home on Maple Street with a garden I'd tended for decades and a front porch where Harold and I used to watch the sunset every evening. My son, Marcus, was my pride and joy. I'd raised him as a single mother after his father left when Marcus was just 3 years old. I worked 2 jobs waitressing during the day and cleaning offices at night to put him through college. I never remarried until Marcus was grown because I wanted to give him every opportunity, every advantage I never had. When he graduated with his engineering degree, I cried tears of pure joy. All those sacrifices felt worth it. Marcus married Christina when he was 28. I'll be honest with you, from the very first time I met her, something felt off. She had this way of smiling at me that never quite reached her eyes. But Marcus was so in love, so happy, and I told myself I was just being an overprotective mother. After all, no woman would ever be good enough for my son in my eyes, right? I dismissed my instincts. The wedding was beautiful. I paid for half of it, nearly $20,000 from my savings, because Christina's parents claimed they couldn't afford to contribute. I didn't mind. I wanted Marcus to have the wedding of his dreams. Christina thanked me with a tight hug and that same smile that didn't reach her eyes, saying, "You're so generous, Me. We'll never forget this." Looking back now, I should have noticed the little things, the way Christina would interrupt me mid-sentence when I was talking to Marcus, how she'd schedule family dinners and forget to tell me about them until after they'd happened, the way she'd compliment my cooking and then suggest we order takeout instead. Small things, easy to dismiss as personality differences or wedding stress. For the first 2 years of their marriage, I saw Marcus regularly. We'd have lunch every Tuesday at the diner on 5th Street, our tradition since he was a teenager. He'd tell me about work, about his dreams of starting his own firm someday, about how happy he was. I'd listen and offer advice when he asked for it, keeping my concerns about Christina to myself. A mother knows when to speak and when to stay quiet. Then Christina got pregnant. Everything changed after my granddaughter Emma was born. At first, I thought it was for the better. Christina called me from the hospital, her voice actually warm for once, asking if I could come help with the baby. "I know we haven't always seen eye to eye, Me," she said, "but I really need you right now. I'm scared I won't know what to do." My heart melted. Finally, I thought we were going to be a real family. I spent 3 weeks at their apartment, which was cramped and expensive. One of those modern places downtown with thin walls and no storage. I changed diapers, did laundry at 2 in the morning, cooked meals, cleaned, and took night shifts with Emma so Christina could sleep. I didn't mind. This was my granddaughter, and helping felt like the most natural thing in the world. It was during one of those late nights, rocking Emma at 3:47 a.m. on a Thursday, that Christina came out of the bedroom. Her hair was messy, and she looked exhausted, but there was something calculating in her expression. "Me," she said, sitting down across from me, "Marcus and I have been talking." "About what, honey?" I asked, keeping my voice low so Emma wouldn't wake. About our living situation. This apartment is too small for a baby. We need more space, a yard, a better neighborhood. She paused, and I watched her choose her next words carefully. Marcus grew up in a house. I want Emma to have that too. That makes sense. I said, smiling. Have you two been looking at places? Well, that's what we wanted to talk to you about. Christina leaned forward, and something in my stomach tightened. Your house has 3 bedrooms. You're living there all alone. It seems like such a waste of space. I felt my hands go cold, even though the room was warm. What are you suggesting? We were thinking, Marcus and I, that maybe it would make sense for us to move in with you. Just temporarily, of course, until we can save up for our own place. You'd get to see Emma every day, and we'd help you with the bills and upkeep. It's a big house for one person, me. Don't you get lonely? The thing was, I did get lonely. The house felt cavernous without Harold, and the idea of having my son and granddaughter there every day was appealing. But something in Christina's tone made me hesitate. I'd have to think about it. I said carefully. Christina's face hardened for just a second before the smile returned. Of course, we understand. Just think about it, okay, for Emma. Over the next week, Marcus called me every day. Not to pressure me, he said, but just to chat, except every conversation somehow circled back to the house. Mom, remember when I was 10 and we built that treehouse in the backyard? I want Emma to have memories like that, he'd say. Or Christina's really struggling in this apartment, Mom. The neighbors are so loud and there's no place for Emma to play. I felt the walls closing in. Finally, during our Tuesday lunch, Marcus took my hand across the table at the diner. Mom, he said, his eyes Harold's eyes looking into mine. You've sacrificed so much for me my whole life. Let me do something for you now. Let me help take care of you. That house is too much for you to manage alone. You're getting older. I'm 60. 9, Marcus, not 90. I interrupted, but my voice was soft. I know, but wouldn't it be nice to have family around, to hear Emma's laughter in those empty rooms, and Christina and I would handle all the maintenance, the yard work, everything. You could just relax and enjoy your granddaughter. When he put it like that, how could I say no? This was my son asking to come home. This was my chance to be a real grandmother, not just a visitor once a week. Okay, I said, let's try it, but we need to set some ground rules first. Marcus's face lit up so bright that I didn't finish my sentence. He came around the table and hugged me so tight I could barely breathe. Thank you, Mom. Thank you so much. You won't regret this, I promise. Looking back now, sitting here telling you this story, I can see all the signs I missed. The way Christina's questions had been phrased, the timing of Marcus's calls, the coordinated effort to make me feel lonely and useful at the same time. But in that moment, all I felt was happiness. My family was coming home. They moved in 2 weeks later, on a Saturday in April. The morning was beautiful, spring sunshine, birds singing, the smell of fresh, cut grass in the air. I'd spent the previous week preparing. I moved my sewing room into the smallest bedroom and gave Marcus and Christina the master bedroom, the room I'd shared with Harold for 40 years. It felt strange boxing up Harold's things, but I told myself this was progress. This was moving forward. I converted the middle bedroom into a nursery for Emma. I painted it a soft yellow, hung curtains with little ducklings on them, and assembled the crib by myself, even though it took me 4 hours and 3 YouTube videos. I wanted everything to be perfect. When they arrived with the moving truck, Christina walked through the house with her arms crossed, inspecting each room like she was a real estate agent. She stopped in the master bedroom doorway. Is this it? She asked, her nose wrinkling slightly. The master bedroom? I said, confused. I thought you'd want the biggest room. It's just, dated, those curtains are ancient, me, and that wallpaper, she shuddered. We'll need to redecorate. Something small and cold lodged in my chest, but I pushed it away. Of course, honey. Make it your own. That's what I want. Marcus carried boxes past us, giving me an apologetic smile. Don't mind Christina, Mom. She's just particular about decorating. It's her creative side. I help them unpack all day. By evening, my back was aching and my knees were screaming, but I didn't complain. I ordered pizza for dinner, Christina's favorite, according to Marcus, and we sat around the dining room table like a real family. Emma was asleep in her new crib, and for a moment everything felt right. Here's to new beginnings, Marcus said, raising his glass of soda. To family, I added, clinking my glass against his. Christina raised her glass, but said nothing. She was looking around the living room with that same appraising expression, and I wondered what she was seeing that I couldn't. The first real argument happened 3 weeks after they moved in. I came home from my weekly grocery shopping. I still drove myself everywhere, despite Marcus's suggestions that maybe I shouldn't, and found Christina in my kitchen. She'd rearranged everything. What happened to my kitchen? I asked, setting down the grocery bags. Christina didn't even look up from her phone. I reorganized it. The way you had things made no sense. Glasses should be near the dishwasher, not across the kitchen. But I've had my glasses in that cabinet for 40 years, I said, trying to keep my voice level. I know where everything is. Well, things change me, you'll adapt. She finally looked at me, and there was something sharp in her expression. This is our home now, too. Remember, we all have to compromise. I wanted to say that compromise meant discussing changes before making them, but Emma started crying from the nursery, and Christina sighed heavily. Could you get her? I've been dealing with her all day, and I need 5 minutes of peace. I went to tend to my granddaughter, biting back the words I wanted to say. Pick your battles, me, I told myself. It's just kitchen cabinets, but it wasn't just kitchen cabinets. Over the next month, Christina changed everything. She threw out my curtains and replaced them with modern blinds. She moved my photographs of Harold into a box in the garage because they cluttered up the walls. She painted over the wallpaper in the master bedroom without asking. Even though Marcus and I had put that wallpaper up together when he was 12, every time I objected, Marcus would mediate. Mom, Christina's just trying to make the house feel like home. Can't you compromise a little? I've given you the entire house, Marcus. I said one evening after Christina threw out my favorite armchair because it was an eyesore, Come on, Mom, don't be dramatic. We're all living together. Everyone needs to give a little. But I was the only one giving. I just didn't realize yet how much more they'd expect me to give. The moment I should have woken up. Really woken up came 6 months after they moved in. I was in the kitchen making my morning coffee when Christina came in, already dressed and made up even though it was barely 7 a.m. We need to talk about something, she said, not bothering with pleasantries. What is it? I asked, pouring water into the coffee maker. The bills. Marcus and I have been going over our finances, and we're spending way more than we expected. We need to figure out a better arrangement. I turned to face her fully. I thought you were helping with the bills. That's what we agreed. We are helping, but you're the homeowner, me. The house is in your name. It's only fair that you cover the majority of the expenses. She pulled out her phone and showed me a spreadsheet. We've calculated that a fair split would be 70-30. You pay 70%, we pay 30%. My hands clenched around my coffee mug. Christina, this is my house. I paid off the mortgage years ago. The only expenses are utilities and maintenance. When you said you'd help with bills, I thought you meant splitting things evenly. That wouldn't be fair, she said, her voice taking on a condescending tone like she was explaining something to a child. You have the entire house. We're just renting space from you, essentially. Plus, you're on a fixed income. You don't need much. We have a child to provide for. Emma is my granddaughter. I want to provide for her too. Then this is how you do it. Christina interrupted. By being reasonable about the financial arrangements, we can't afford 50% me. If that's what you're going to insist on, then maybe we need to reconsider this living situation altogether. The threat was clear. If I pushed back, they'd leave and I'd lose daily access to Emma. I'd go back to being the lonely widow in the big empty house. Fine, I heard myself say, 70, 30. Christina smiled that smile that never reached her eyes. I knew you'd understand. You're such a reasonable woman, me. She left the kitchen, and I stood there with my coffee, feeling like I'd just been robbed but unable to explain exactly how. Looking back, I should have noticed when the shift happened, when my house stopped being my house and started being their house. When we're all family here, turned into you're just living here, but I didn't notice, not yet. I was too busy trying to be the perfect mother and grandmother, too busy bending and compromising and giving ground. I didn't realize I was standing on a cliff until they pushed me off it. What happened next would test everything I thought I knew about love, family, and my own strength. The 70-30 split was just the beginning. Over the next 6 months, the requests kept coming, each one framed as reasonable, each one backed by the unspoken threat that they might leave if I didn't agree. Me, the kitchen is too small for all of us, Christina said one morning. We need to knock down the wall to the dining room and open it up. My friend's husband is a contractor. He can do it for cheap. That's a load-bearing wall, I protested. And I like the dining room separate. You like everything old and dated, Christina snapped. Then, softer, I'm sorry. I'm just stressed. It's hard living in a house that's not really ours, you know. Everything is still so. Can't we make just this one change for Emma? Always for Emma. Every request, every demand, every change was framed as being for my granddaughter. And how could I say no to that? So I agreed to the renovation, which cost $18,000. Money that came from my savings because their cheap contractor was anything but cheap, and Christina conveniently discovered they were a bit short. After the work was halfway done, then came the car situation. Christina decided she needed a bigger vehicle now that Emma was getting older. We can't keep putting her in and out of a sedan, she explained. We need an SUV, something safe and reliable. That sounds smart, I said. What are you two looking at? Well, that's the thing. Christina sat down next to me on the couch, my couch, which she'd roof-upholstered without asking because the original fabric was hideous. We need help with the down payment. Just a loan, me. We'll pay you back. $5,000. $5,000. My voice came out higher than I intended. Marcus appeared in the doorway as if on cue. Mom, we wouldn't ask if it wasn't important. Emma's safety is at stake here. Can't you finance the whole thing through the dealership? I asked. Our credit isn't great right now, Marcus admitted, looking uncomfortable. Christina had some credit card debt from before we got married that we're still working through. The interest rates would be astronomical. But if we can put more down, the payments become manageable. I looked at my son, at the worry lines around his eyes that hadn't been there 2 years ago, and I felt my resolve crumble. Okay, but I need you to pay me back, Marcus. I'm not made of money. Of course, Mom. We'll set up a payment plan. I promise. He hugged me, and I felt like I was doing the right thing. They never paid back a single dollar. My friend Dorothy came to visit one Tuesday afternoon. We'd been friends for 30 years, ever since our boys played Little League together. She stood on the porch, looking around at the changes with wide eyes. Me, I barely recognize your house, she said as I led her inside. Christina's been doing some decorating, I said, trying to sound upbeat. Dorothy looked at where Harold's portrait used to hang above the mantel. Now there was an abstract painting of nothing in particular. Where are all your photos, your things? In the garage, mostly. Christina says they're safer there, away from Emma's sticky fingers. Dorothy gave me a look I couldn't quite read. We sat in the kitchen, the expanded kitchen that no longer felt like mine, and she took my hand across the table. Me, I'm going to ask you something, and I want you to really think about your answer. Are you happy? The question caught me off guard. Of course I'm happy. My family is here. I get to see Emma every day. That's not what I asked. Dorothy squeezed my hand. Are you happy? I opened my mouth to say yes automatically, but the word wouldn't come. Instead, tears filled my eyes, surprising us both. Oh, honey, Dorothy said softly. It's just an adjustment. I managed, living with other people after being alone for so long. It takes time. Me, this is your house, your home. You shouldn't feel like a guest in your own space. I don't feel like a guest, I said, but even as the words came out, I knew they were a lie. Dorothy stayed for an hour, and we talked about other things, her grandchildren, the church bake sale, the new grocery store opening on Main Street. But as she was leaving, she turned to me at the door. You know where I am if you need me, she said. Day or night, you call me. I will. I promised, but I didn't really understand why she looked so worried. I understood 2 weeks later. It was a Saturday morning in November. I was up early, as usual, making breakfast. I'd gotten into the habit of cooking for everyone pancakes, eggs, bacon, the works. It was my way of contributing, of feeling useful. Christina came downstairs in her bathrobe, her face puffy from sleep. She looked at the spread on the table and frowned. We talked about this. I'm trying to eat healthier. All this greasy food isn't good for anyone. I made fruit salad too. I offered, pointing to the bowl of fresh berries. It's not about the fruit, It's about you constantly doing things without asking what we want. You just assume I'm making breakfast. I said, my voice harder than I intended. I'm sorry if that's such an imposition. Don't get defensive. I'm just trying to communicate our needs. And what about my needs? The words came out before I could stop them. What about what I want in my own home? Christina's face went cold. Your home, is that what you think this is? After everything Marcus and I have done for you, done for me, I stared at her. What have you done for me, exactly? We moved in here to keep you company, to keep you from being lonely, to help you maintain this place. Do you know how much we've sacrificed, living in this outdated house, dealing with your constant interference? My voice was rising now. This is my house, Christina, mine. I paid for it. I've lived here for 40 years, and you need to let go, Christina shouted. God, you're so controlling. Marcus said you'd be difficult, but I didn't realize how bad it would be. Marcus appeared in the doorway, Emma in his arms. What's going on? Why are you two yelling? Your mother is having a meltdown because I asked her to stop making unhealthy food, Christina said, her voice suddenly calm and reasonable. That's not, I started, but Marcus cut me off. Mom, can you just try to get along with Christina? Please, for Emma's sake. I looked at my son, at the way he automatically sided with his wife, at how he couldn't even see what was happening, and something inside me cracked. Not broke, cracked, fine. I said quietly, I'll try harder. But what I was really thinking was, how much harder can I try before there's nothing left of me? The discovery that changed everything happened 3 weeks later, completely by accident. I was looking for my checkbook. Christina had reorganized my desk drawer again when I found a folder tucked behind some old tax returns. Inside were real estate listings, dozens of them, houses in the neighborhood, all with prices listed. And paperwork, applications for home equity loans, documents with my address on them, my house details, but I'd never seen them before. My hands shook as I flipped through the pages. There were notes in Christina's handwriting. Master bathroom renovation, $35K. New roof, $20K. Landscaping overhaul, $15K. Numbers and plans all centered around my house. At the bottom of the folder was a document that made my blood run cold. It was a quitclaim deed. Blank, not filled out yet, but there. Ready. I sat down hard in my desk chair, my heart pounding so loud I could hear it in my ears. What was Christina planning? Was she going to forge my signature, pressure me into signing over the house? I thought about all the times she'd mentioned how much work the house needed, how she'd said things like, if this were our house, we'd do this differently. How she'd slowly been erasing every trace of my life from these walls. This wasn't about helping me. This had never been about helping me. This was about taking my house. I took my phone out with shaking hands and photographed every document in that folder. Every single page. Then I put everything back exactly where I'd found it and sat there, trying to process what I'd just discovered. How long had they been planning this? Since before they moved in. Or had it evolved over time, as Christina realized how easy it was to manipulate me? I thought about the money I'd given them, the car down payment I'd never be repaid for, the renovations I'd paid for that only increased the value of the house they were planning to take from me. Every compromise, every change, every time I'd bent to keep the peace, it had all been leading to this. That night, after everyone was asleep, I did something I'd never done before. I went through their room. I felt terrible doing it, like I was violating my own sense of integrity. But I needed to know. I needed to understand what I was dealing with. In Christina's nightstand, I found more folders, financial statements showing they had far more money saved than they'd claimed. Credit cards that weren't maxed out, they were paid off. The debt they'd told me about didn't exist. At least not anymore. There were emails printed out. I read them by the light of my phone, my stomach turning with each page. One email from Christina to her sister. Me is so easy to manipulate. I just mention Emma, and she does whatever I want. Marcus feels guilty about it, but I told him we deserve this after what she put him through growing up, a single mom, please. She chose to have a kid she couldn't afford. Another email from Christina to a friend. The house is easily worth $400K. Once we get her to sign it over, we can sell it and finally buy something decent. We just need to be patient. She's old. How much longer can she even maintain a place like this? I had to put my hand over my mouth to keep from making a sound. Marcus knew. My son knew what Christina was planning, and even if he felt guilty, he was going along with it. The betrayal was so complete, so total, that I couldn't process it all at once. I carefully put everything back and returned to my tiny room, the room that used to be my sewing room, the smallest bedroom in my own house. I didn't sleep that night. I lay there in the darkness and something shifted inside me. The crack that had formed during our argument grew wider, and through it, I could see clearly for the first time in months. I'd spent my whole life taking care of others. I'd worked myself to the bone for Marcus. I'd given Harold the best years of my life. I'd been the good mother, the good wife, the good grandmother. I'd bent and compromised and sacrificed until I'd nearly disappeared. But I wasn't gone yet, and I wasn't going to let them do this to me. The next morning, I called my bank. I'd like to make an appointment with someone about protecting my assets, I said. The banker I met with was a young woman named Jessica. I showed her the photographs I'd taken of the documents, and her face grew serious. Mrs. Patterson, shaping the IPEMR, not a SON, who you'll then SOI, but this looks like potential fraud preparation. Identity have you change a CON SRIC? Not yet, I admitted. I don't even know where to start. Jessica leaned forward. My mother went through something similar with my brother. Let me give you a name. She wrote down a number. Linda Chen, she specializes in elder financial abuse cases. Tell her I sent you. Elder abuse, the words hit me like cold water. Was that what this was? I was only 70 years old. I wasn't some confused elderly person. But as I sat there in the bank, looking at the sympathetic concern on Jessica's face, I realized that's exactly what was happening to me. I called Linda Chen from my car in the bank parking lot. Her secretary said she could see me that afternoon. They'd had a cancellation. Linda Chen was a small woman in her 50s with sharp eyes and an even sharper mind. I sat in her office and told her everything. The move-in, the money, the reorganizing, the documents I'd found. She listened without interrupting, taking notes. When I finished, she sat back in her chair, Me, may I call you me? What do you want to happen here? I want them out of my house. I said, and as the words came out, I realized how much I meant them. I want my home back. I want my life back. Okay, that's very clear. Now the good news is that the house is in your name. They can't sell it or mortgage it without your signature. The bad news is that they're living there, which gives them certain rights as tenants, even if they're family. We need to do this carefully and legally. What do? I asked. Linda smiled, and it wasn't a kind smile. It was the smile of someone who'd helped many people fight back and win. First, we make sure your assets are completely secure. Then we prepare an eviction notice. But I need to tell you, this is going to be hard. They're going to fight back. Your son is going to be very upset. Are you prepared for that? I thought about the emails, about Marcus letting his wife plot to steal my house, about how he'd taken her side every single time, never once asking if I was okay. Yes, I said, I'm prepared. Over the next week, I moved carefully and quietly. I opened a new bank account at a different bank and transferred most of my savings there. I put my important documents, my birth certificate, Harold's death certificate, the original deed to the house, my will, in a safety deposit box. I contacted the credit bureaus and put a freeze on my credit so no one could open accounts in my name. I changed all my passwords. I set up paperless statements so Christina couldn't intercept my mail anymore. Every action I took felt like putting on armor. I was preparing for battle, and the enemy was living in my own home, sleeping in my bedroom, playing with my granddaughter in my living room. The hardest part was acting normal. I still made breakfast. I still watched Emma when Christina went shopping. I still smiled and chatted and pretended everything was fine. But inside, I was planning. Linda had explained the process to me. First, I'd give them a 30-day notice to vacate. This was required by law, even though they weren't paying rent. If they didn't leave after 30 days, we'd file for formal eviction. It could take months. They're going to try to guilt you, Linda warned. They're going to say you're choosing a house over your family. They're going to use Emma as leverage. You need to be strong. I will be. I promised. Dorothy came over one afternoon while Christina was out. I showed her everything. The documents, the emails, the eviction notice Linda had prepared. Oh, me, she said, tears in her eyes. I knew something was wrong. I could see it. I should have listened to you, I said. I should have seen it sooner. Don't do that to yourself. You loved them. You trusted them. That's not a character flaw, honey. That's you being a good person. She squeezed my hand. When are you going to serve them the notice? Tomorrow, I said. Saturday morning. I want Marcus to be home. Do you want me here? Dorothy asked. I thought about it. Part of me wanted backup, someone on my side. But another part needed to do this myself. No, I said finally. This is something I need to do alone, but can I call you after, day or night? She promised. I'll be waiting. That Friday night, Christina outdid herself. She announced at dinner that she'd hired a designer to redo the living room. I didn't approve that, I said carefully. You don't need to approve every little thing, me. This is our home too, remember. We all decided we were living here together, and that means we all get a say in how it looks. A designer costs money. We're using our money. Christina said, don't worry about it, but I did worry. Because I knew they didn't have money, which meant they'd be expecting me to cover it eventually, just like every other thing they'd started and then couldn't finish. I don't want a designer, I said firmly. I like the living room the way it is. Christina's eyes narrowed. Marcus, are you hearing this? Your mother is being completely unreasonable again. Marcus looked between us, his face weary. Mom, why can't you just let Christina have this? She's trying to make this place nice for all of us. It was already nice, I said quietly. It was my home, and it was nice. Was. Christina pounced on the word. Sounds like you don't even consider it your home anymore. Maybe that's the problem, me. Maybe you're the one who doesn't want to be here." I looked at her across the table, at her triumphant expression, and I thought about the eviction notice sitting in my purse. "Tomorrow," I told myself, "just get through tonight. Maybe you're right," I said softly and left the table. In my small room, I could hear them talking. Christina's voice was loud enough to carry through the wall. "She's getting worse, Marcus, more paranoid, more controlling. I think she might be developing dementia or something. We should talk to her doctor. She seems fine to me," Marcus said, but his voice was uncertain. "You don't see it because you're not here all day like I am. The way she hoards things, the way she gets confused about conversations we've had, I'm worried about her, and I'm worried about Emily being around her if she's becoming unstable." I sat on my bed, listening to her paint me as crazy, as a danger to my own granddaughter, and I felt something hard and cold settle in my chest where my heart used to be. Whatever guilt I'd been feeling about the eviction notice vanished. This woman was trying to take everything from me, including my own sanity. And my son was letting her. Tomorrow couldn't come soon enough. Saturday morning dawned gray and cold. November in full force, the trees bare, the sky threatening rain. I woke up early as I always did, but this time I didn't make breakfast. I got dressed carefully. My best slacks, a nice sweater, Harold's wedding ring on my right hand for courage. I looked at myself in the mirror and barely recognized the woman staring back. When had I gotten so thin? So tired looking. The last year had aged me more than the previous 5 combined. But there was something else in my reflection, too. Something I hadn't seen in a long time. Determination, strength, the woman who'd worked 2 jobs to put her son through college, the woman who'd survived her husband's death and kept going. That woman was still in there. I made coffee and sat at the kitchen table. My kitchen table, no matter what Christina said, and waited. Marcus came down first, Emma toddling behind him. She was 2 now, talking in simple sentences, and she ran to me with her arms out. "Grandma," she shouted, and I picked her up, breathing in her baby shampoo smell. "Good morning, sweet girl," I said, holding her tight. This might be one of the last times I held her for a while, I realized. The thought nearly broke me, but I pushed it away. I was doing this for her too, in a way, so she wouldn't grow up learning that it was okay to steal from family, to manipulate and scheme. Christina came down last, her hair in a messy bun, her phone already in her hand. She barely glanced at me. "Marcus, did you see that email about?" she started. "Christina, Marcus, I need to talk to both of you," I said. My voice came out stronger than I felt. "Please sit down." Something in my tone made them both pause. Marcus sat slowly, Emma still on his lap. Christina remained standing, her arms crossed. "What's this about me?" she asked, her voice suspicious. I reached into my purse and pulled out 2 envelopes. I set them on the table. "These are 30-day notices to vacate the premises. I need you to move out of my house." The silence that followed was absolute. Even Emma seemed to sense something was wrong and went quiet. Marcus spoke first. "Mom, what are you talking about? This is a joke, right?" "It's not a joke. I want you out of my house in 30 days. Christina snatched up one of the envelopes and ripped it open. Her face went white, then red. "You can't do this. This is our home. We've lived here for over a year." "It's my home," I said calmly. "It's always been my home, and I want it back. You ungrateful." Christina stopped herself, looking at Emma. "After everything we've done for you, after we gave up our lives to move here and take care of you," "Stop," I said, and the word came out sharp as a slap. "Just stop, Christina. I know what you've been planning. I found your folder, the real estate listings, the quitclaim deed, the emails." Christina's face went completely white. Marcus looked confused. "What emails?" he asked. "Mom, what are you talking about? Ask your wife," I said, my eyes locked on Christina's. "Ask her about the emails to her sister, about how easy I am to manipulate, about how you're going to sell my house once you get me to sign it over." Marcus, she's making things up. She's confused. Christina started, but her voice was shaking. I'm not confused, I said. I'm completely clear for the first time in a year. You moved into my home with a plan to take it from me. You've been slowly pushing me out, erasing me, making me feel like a guest in my own house. And Marcus, I looked at my son, and my voice softened despite everything. You let her do it. Marcus set Emma down gently. Mom, there's been a misunderstanding. Don't. I said. Don't try to smooth this over. Don't try to mediate. I'm not misunderstanding anything. You knew what she was doing. Maybe you didn't know all of it, but you knew enough and you let it happen. You know what your problem is, me? Christina's voice was vicious now. All pretense dropped. You can't let go. You can't accept that Marcus has a family now, that his priorities have changed. You want him to still be your little boy, dependent on you, grateful to you. I want to be treated with respect in my own home, I said. That's all I've ever wanted. This isn't your home anymore, Christina shouted. You're a lonely old woman living in the past. This house is too big for you. You can't maintain it. You can't afford it. Face reality, me. You need us more than we need you. I stood up slowly, and I felt Harold's ring warm on my finger, like he was there with me, giving me strength. You're wrong, I said quietly. I don't need you at all, and you have 30 days to get out. We're not going anywhere, Christina said. You want to throw out your own son, your granddaughter. What kind of monster are you? The kind who won't let herself be stolen from anymore, I said. The kind who knows her worth, the kind who's done being manipulated. Marcus finally spoke, his voice broken. Mom, please, can't we talk about this? Can't we work something out? We could have worked something out a year ago, I said. We could have set boundaries, had honest conversations, treated each other with respect, but that's not what happened. What happened is that you took advantage of my loneliness and my love for you. Both of you. She is crazy, Christina said to Marcus. I told you she was losing it. We should call her doctor. We should. I've consulted with a lawyer, I said calmly. Everything I'm doing is legal and above board. You can accept the 30-day notice or I can file for formal eviction. Either way, you're leaving. Christina grabbed her phone. We'll see about that. My cousin is a lawyer. We have rights. We've lived here over a year. That gives us tenant protection. Then take me to court, I said. But you'll still lose. And in the meantime, I've frozen my credit, moved my assets, and secured all my important documents. There's nothing here for you to take anymore, Christina. The game is over. The look on her face was one I'll never forget, pure rage mixed with disbelief. She'd been so sure she had me under control, and the realization that she didn't, that she never had, not really, was destroying her carefully constructed plans. Marcus, say something, she demanded. But Marcus was just staring at me like he'd never seen me before. Mom, did you really think we were trying to steal your house? I don't think it, Marcus. I know it. I have proof, documents, emails, everything. And even if I didn't have proof, I have the right to decide who lives in my home. And I've decided it won't be you too, not anymore. Christina stormed out of the kitchen. I heard her upstairs slamming things around. Marcus sat at the table, his head in his hands. I didn't know about the emails, he said finally. I swear, Mom, I didn't know she was saying those things about you. But you knew she wanted the house, I said. It wasn't a question. He was silent for a long moment. She talked about it, about how much easier it would be if the house was in our names, about how we could help you more if we had more control. She made it sound like it would be better for everyone. Better for everyone, I repeated, including me. Would it have been better for me to have nowhere to live while you sold my house? We wouldn't have left you with nowhere to live. Christina talked about us helping you find a nice apartment, something easier to manage. I don't want an apartment, Marcus. I want my home, the home I paid for, the home where I raised you, the home where I lived with Harold. This is my life, not something to be managed or made easier. Emma started crying upstairs, and Marcus stood up automatically. I should go, I said. Take care of your daughter, but Marcus, That notice isn't negotiable. 30 days. I'm not changing my mind." He looked at me for a long moment, and I saw something crack in his expression. Maybe it was the realization of what he'd done. Maybe it was just the shock of his mother standing up to him for the first time in his life. Whatever it was, he didn't argue. He just went upstairs. I sat alone in the kitchen and realized my hands were shaking. Not from fear, from adrenaline, from the rush of finally standing up for myself. I pulled out my phone and called Dorothy. She answered on the first ring. "How did it go?" she asked. "I did it," I said, and to my surprise, I was smiling. "I gave them the notice, Dorothy, I did it." "I'm so proud of you," she said, her voice warm. "How are you feeling?" "Terrified," I admitted. "And free," both at the same time. The next 30 days were the longest of my life. Christina barely spoke to me except to make cutting remarks. Marcus tried to negotiate, to find a compromise, but I stood firm. Linda had told me that any wavering would just prolong the process, would give them hope that they could manipulate me into changing my mind. "Once you start this, Me, you have to see it through," she'd said, "no matter how hard they make it, no matter what they say or do." They made it very hard. Christina started bringing people over. Friends who would look at me with pity and confusion. "You're kicking them out," one woman asked. "Your own son and granddaughter. Where are they supposed to go?" "That's not my problem anymore," I said, and walked away from the judging stares. She called my church friends, painting herself as the victim. "Me's not well." I heard her tell someone on the phone. "She's having paranoid delusions. We're trying to get her help, but she won't listen. It's so hard watching her deteriorate like this." Some people believed her. I got concerned calls from church ladies I'd known for decades. "Me, dear, are you okay? Christina says you've been confused." It was isolating and humiliating. But I had Dorothy, and I had Linda, and I had the truth. That had to be enough. The worst part was watching Emma. She didn't understand why Grandma wasn't playing with her anymore, why the house felt tense and wrong. Christina used her ruthlessly. "Say goodbye to Grandma's house, Emma," she'd say loudly when I was in earshot. "Grandma doesn't want us here anymore. We're going to have to live in a tiny apartment because Grandma needs this big house all to herself." Emma would look at me with confused, hurt eyes, and it took everything in me not to break, but I couldn't break. Not now. 2 weeks before the 30 days were up, Marcus came to me late at night. I was in my small room, reading. He knocked softly on the door. "Mom, can we talk?" I let him in. He sat on the edge of my bed, and for a moment he looked like the little boy who used to come to my room after bad dreams. "We're looking at apartments," he said. "Christina's mother said we can stay with her for a while if we need to." "That's good," I said neutrally. "Mom, I need you to understand something." He looked at me, and there were tears in his eyes. "I never meant to hurt you. I thought we were helping. I thought having us here was what you wanted." "It was," I said. "At first, I did want you here, but not like this, Marcus. Not with me feeling like a guest. Not with your wife planning to take my house." She swears she wasn't really going to do it. She says she was just researching options in case you ever needed care or Marcus. I cut him off gently. "Don't do this. Don't make excuses for her. And don't lie to yourself about what she intended. You read those emails. You know what she thinks of me." He was quiet for a long time. "I'm sorry," he finally said. "I'm so sorry, Mom. I should have protected you. I should have stood up to her." "Yes," I said simply. "You should have. Can you forgive me?" His voice was small. I thought about it, really thought about it. "Someday," I said honestly. "Maybe someday I can, but not right now. Right now, I need you to leave my house and let me heal. Will I?" He stopped, swallowed. "Will I still be able to see you? Can we still have lunch on Tuesdays? The Tuesday lunches are tradition." The thought of losing that hurt more than anything else, but I couldn't go backward. I couldn't pretend everything was fine when it wasn't. "I don't know," I said, "maybe with time, but I need space right now, Marcus. I need to figure out who I am when I'm not bending myself into shapes to make everyone else comfortable." He nodded, tears streaming down his face. "I love you, Mom." "I love you too," I said. "That's why this hurts so much." After he left, I cried. I cried for the relationship we'd had and lost. I cried for Emma, who was caught in the middle of adult problems. I cried for myself, for having to be so strong when all I wanted was for my son to choose me for once. But I didn't change my mind. The last week was surreal. Movers came and went. Boxes filled the hallways. Christina was cold and silent, her anger like ice. Marcus moved through the house like a ghost, packing up the life they'd tried to build in my space. I stayed out of the way mostly. I went to Dorothy's house or sat in the backyard garden, watching the November frost kill the last of the season's flowers. Everything was dying, but in spring it would all come back. I held on to that thought. On the day before they were supposed to be fully moved out, Christina cornered me in the hallway. "I hope you're happy," she said, her voice low and venomous. "You've destroyed your own family. Marcus will never forgive you for this. Emma will grow up not knowing her grandmother. You'll die alone in this house, and no one will care." I looked at her, really looked at her, and I felt nothing but pity. "You tried to steal from me," I said calmly. "You tried to gaslight me, manipulate me, and take everything I worked my entire life to build. And you're calling me the villain. That says everything anyone needs to know about you, Christina." "I gave up my apartment for this," she hissed. "My life, my independence. I moved in here to help you. You moved in here because you saw an opportunity," I interrupted. "And you almost succeeded. You're smart, I'll give you that. You played on every insecurity I had. But you made one mistake." "What's that?" she asked, her voice dripping with disdain. "You underestimated me," I said simply. "You thought I was weak. You thought I'd do anything to avoid conflict to keep my family close. And for a while you were right. But you pushed too hard, Christina. And now you've lost everything you were trying to gain." She stared at me, and I saw her calculating, trying to find one last angle to work. But there wasn't one. She'd played all her cards, and I'd won. "This isn't over," she said finally. "Yes," I replied, "it is." Their moving day, the 30th day, fell on a cold Saturday, December 1st. The house was emptied of their belongings by noon. Marcus made trip after trip to the U-Haul truck, not meeting my eyes. Christina supervised, barking orders at the movers they'd hired. Emma sat on the front porch steps with her favorite stuffed rabbit, watching the chaos with solemn eyes. I went and sat next to her. "Hi, sweet girl," I said softly. "Bye, Grandma," she said. "We're leaving." "I know, honey." "Are you coming with us?" she asked, her voice hopeful. My heart broke. "No, sweetheart, I'm staying here. But maybe you can come visit me sometimes. Mommy says you don't want to see us anymore," Emma said, her lip trembling. I pulled her into my arms, rage at Christina burning through me. To use a child like this to poison her mind against me. It was unforgivable. "That's not true," I said firmly. "I love you so much, Emma. I will always love you. Never forget that, okay, okay," she whispered, hugging me tight. Christina appeared in the doorway. "Emma, come inside. We're almost ready to go." Emma ran to her mother, and I stood up slowly. Christina and I stared at each other across the porch. "I'm going to tell everyone what you did," Christina said. "I'm going to make sure everyone knows that you chose a house over your family. You'll be a pariah, me. No one will want to be around you. Then I'll be alone," I said. "But I'll be alone in my own home, surrounded by my things, living my life the way I choose, and that's worth more than 100 false friends who only care about appearances." Marcus came out carrying the last box. He set it in the truck and walked back to where I stood. "Mom," he said, and his voice broke. "Goodbye, Marcus," I said gently. "Take care of your daughter." "I'm sorry," he whispered. "I'm so sorry." "I know," I said. And I did. I believed he was sorry, but sorry didn't change what had happened. Sorry didn't give me back the year I'd lost, the money I'd spent, the dignity that had been slowly stripped from me. He got in the U-Haul. Christina strapped Emma into their car, the SUV I'd helped them buy. They pulled away from the curb, and I stood on my porch watching them go. Dorothy appeared beside me. I hadn't even heard her car pull up. "You did it," she said, taking my hand. "I did it," I echoed. "How do you feel?" I thought about the question. How did I feel? Sad, relieved, exhausted, victorious, guilty, free, all of it at once, like I can breathe again. I said finally. What Marcus and Christina didn't know, what I hadn't told anyone except Linda and Dorothy, was that I'd been preparing for more than just their departure. I'd been preparing to make sure they couldn't come back, that they couldn't manipulate or guilt me into letting them return. 2 days after they left, Linda called me. I think you should know that Christina and Marcus tried to file a wrongful eviction suit against you." My stomach dropped. "Can they do that?" "They did it. Whether they'll win is another matter entirely." Linda's voice was calm, reassuring. "The judge reviewed their filing and scheduled a hearing for next week. But I have all the evidence. The documents they had, the emails, the financial records showing they weren't paying rent." "They don't have a case. Should I be worried?" I asked. "No," Linda said firmly. "You should be confident. You did everything right. You followed the law, you gave proper notice, and most importantly, you have documentation of their actual intent. That quitclaim deed they were preparing, that's attempted fraud, If anything, they should be worried." The hearing was held on a gray Wednesday morning. I wore my best dress and Harold's ring. Linda was beside me, her briefcase full of evidence. Marcus and Christina sat on the other side of the courtroom with their lawyer, Christina's cousin, who looked fresh out of law school and nervous. Judge Morrison was a woman in her 60s with steel, gray hair and reading glasses that she peered over skeptically as Christina's cousin made their case. "Your Honor, my clients moved into Mrs. Patterson's home at her request. They've been contributing to the household, helping with maintenance, caring for Mrs. Patterson as she ages. This eviction is retaliatory and unjustified. Furthermore, my clients believe Mrs. Patterson may be suffering from diminished mental capacity. Objection." Linda said calmly. "There's no medical evidence to support that claim, and it's a transparent attempt to paint my client as incompetent." Sustained, Judge Morrison said. "Stick to facts, counselor." Christina's cousin stumbled through the rest of their argument. They claimed Marcus and Christina had been paying rent in the form of household contributions. They claimed I'd encouraged them to make improvements to the house. They claimed I'd promised them the house would be theirs eventually. Then it was Linda's turn. "Your Honor, I'll be brief. Mrs. Patterson allowed her son and daughter-in-law to move into her home out of love and generosity. Over the course of the year, they systematically isolated her, spent her money, reorganized her home, and planned to defraud her of the property itself." Linda handed a folder to the judge. "These are copies of documents we found in the defendant's possession, real estate listings for Mrs. Patterson's home, a blank quitclaim deed, and perhaps most damning, emails from Mrs. Christina Patterson detailing her plans to manipulate Mrs. Patterson into signing over the house." Judge Morrison read through the documents, her expression growing darker with each page. "Your Honor," Linda continued, "my client gave proper legal notice. She followed every requirement of the eviction process. The defendants are attempting to use the court system to continue their exploitation of her. We request that you dismiss this suit and, furthermore, issue a restraining order preventing the defendants from contacting Mrs. Patterson." Christina's cousin tried to argue. "Your Honor, those documents are taken out of context, counselor." Judge Morrison interrupted. "Did your client prepare a quitclaim deed for property she doesn't own?" "Well, yes, but—" "And did your client write emails discussing plans to acquire her mother-in-law's property?" "The emails were just venting, Your Honor. Everyone vents to family. I've read enough." Judge Morrison said. She looked directly at Christina and Marcus. "Stand up, please." They stood, Christina's face pale, Marcus looking at the floor. "I find in favor of Mrs. Patterson," Judge Morrison said. "The eviction was legal and justified. Furthermore, I'm ordering both of you to stay at least 500 feet from Mrs. Patterson and her property unless she specifically invites contact. Do you understand?" "Your Honor, please," Christina started. "Do you understand?" Judge Morrison repeated, her voice like steel. "Yes, Your Honor," Marcus said quietly. "And Mrs. Christina Patterson, you should consider yourself fortunate that Mrs. Patterson hasn't filed criminal charges for attempted fraud. I suggest you take this as a learning experience and move forward with your life without attempting to steal from family members." The courtroom cleared. Christina stormed out without a word, but Marcus lingered. "Can I talk to you?" he asked, "just for a minute." Linda looked at me, and I nodded. She stepped away but stayed within sight. "Mom, I didn't know about most of what Christina did," Marcus said. "You have to believe me. The emails, the quitclaim deed, I swear I didn't know." "But you knew enough," I said. "You knew she wanted the house. You knew she was pushing me around, and you let it happen because it was easier than standing up to her." "You're right," he said. "I was a coward. I chose her over you, and that was wrong. I don't know how to fix this. You can't fix it," I said simply. "Not right now. Maybe someday, but you hurt me, Marcus. You let her hurt me, and I need time to heal from that." He nodded, tears streaming down his face. "I love you, Mom." "I know," I said. "That's what makes this so sad." He walked away, and Linda came back to my side. "You did good in there, Me," she said. The judge was impressed with how prepared we were. "I couldn't have done it without you," I said. "Yes, you could have," Linda replied. "I just helped with the paperwork. The courage, that was all you." In the weeks that followed, I slowly began to reclaim my house. I brought Harold's photos back from the garage and hung them on the walls. I threw out Christina's modern blinds and put up curtains I actually liked, soft blue ones with a pattern of birds. I moved back into the master bedroom and cried the first night I slept there, but they were healing tears. Dorothy helped me paint over the renovations Christina had done. We talked and laughed, and sometimes I cried, but it felt good to have my space be mine again. I heard through the grapevine that Marcus and Christina were living with her mother. That Christina was telling anyone who would listen about her horrible mother-in-law who'd kicked them out for no reason. Some people believed her. Some people stopped calling me. But the people who really knew me, the people who mattered, Dorothy, Linda, my friend Margaret from church who saw through Christina's lies, they stayed. And I realized that a small circle of real friends was worth more than a large circle of false ones. Emma's 3rd birthday came in January. I sent a present through Dorothy, too afraid to violate the restraining order by reaching out directly. I didn't know if Emma got it or if Christina threw it away. That hurt, not knowing if my granddaughter remembered me. But I was okay, better than okay. I was free. 3 months after the eviction, on a Tuesday afternoon, my doorbell rang. I wasn't expecting anyone. I looked through the peephole and saw Marcus standing there, alone. I opened the door, but didn't invite him in. "You're violating the restraining order," I said. "I know, I'm sorry, I had to see you." He looked different. Thinner, tired. "Can we talk, please?" I should have said no. I should have closed the door, but he was my son, and some part of me would always love him despite everything. I stepped onto the porch, keeping the door between us and the interior of my house. 5 minutes, I said. "Christina and I are getting divorced," he said. "I filed last week." I didn't know what to say to that. After the court case, I couldn't stop thinking about everything, about what she'd done, what I'd let her do. I talked to a therapist. Mom, she helped me see how manipulative Christina had been, not just to you, to me too. She'd isolated me from my friends, from you, and I didn't even realize it was happening. "I'm sorry you're going through that," I said, and I meant it. "I don't expect you to forgive me," Marcus continued. "I know I don't deserve it, but I wanted you to know that I'm trying to be better. I'm trying to be the son you raised me to be. I'm in therapy. I'm working on myself, and I've told Christina that Emma deserves to know her grandmother, if you're willing. I'd like to bring her to see you. Supervised visits at first, whatever makes you comfortable. I looked at my son and saw genuine remorse, real change, but I also remembered the pain, the betrayal, the year of my life I'd never get back. I need to think about it. I said finally, I'm not saying no, but I'm not saying yes yet either. I need to be sure that you've really changed, Marcus, that this isn't just guilt talking. I understand, he said. Take all the time you need. I'll be here when you're ready, if you're ever ready. He turned to leave, then stopped. Mom, thank you for standing up for yourself, for not letting us destroy you. You taught me something important by fighting back. I just wish I'd learned it sooner. After he left, I went back inside my house, my beautiful, peaceful house, and sat in Harold's old chair. I thought about second chances, about forgiveness, about whether some bridges once burned could ever be rebuilt. I didn't have the answers yet, but for the first time in a long time, I felt like maybe someday I might. That was 6 months ago. Today, I'm sitting here telling you this story, and my house is quiet, mine. The walls hold only the memories I choose to keep. The space is filled with things I love. Marcus brings Emma to see me twice a month now. We meet at the park or at Dorothy's house, never here, not yet, maybe someday. The restraining order against Marcus was lifted at my request after he showed consistent effort in genuine change. Christina's order remains in place. She hasn't tried to contact me, and I hope she never does. Emma is 3.5 now. She's starting to remember me again. Last week, she made me a drawing of a house with 2 stick figures, her and me. This is Grandma's house. She told me, can I visit? I told her maybe, someday, when I'm ready. Marcus is rebuilding his life. He has his own apartment. He's dating someone new, a woman who seems kind and genuine, though I've only met her once briefly. He's paying me back for the car, slowly but consistently, $50 a month. It'll take years, but he's doing it. Christina, I hear, moved back to her hometown. I don't know what she's doing now, and I don't care. That chapter is closed. People sometimes ask me if I regret what I did, if I wish I'd tried harder to make it work, to keep my family close. The answer is no, not even a little bit. What I regret is waiting so long to stand up for myself. I regret letting them take so much before I said enough. I regret teaching my son, through years of self-sacrifice, that his needs should always come before mine. But I don't regret taking my life back. I learned something important through all of this. I learned that love without boundaries isn't love, it's self-destruction. I learned that being a good mother doesn't mean being a doormat. I learned that sometimes the most loving thing you can do is say no. I also learned that I'm stronger than I ever gave myself credit for. For years, I defined myself through other people. I was Harold's wife, Marcus's mother, Emma's grandmother. But underneath all those roles, there was just me. And me is enough. My house feels like home again. I wake up in my master bedroom and watch the sunrise through my windows. I tend my garden without anyone telling me I'm doing it wrong. I cook what I want when I want. I rearrange furniture and hang pictures and make decisions without having to justify them to anyone. Is it lonely sometimes? Yes. Especially in the evenings when the house gets quiet and I remember what it felt like to have a toddler's laughter echoing through the rooms. But it's a different kind of loneliness than what I felt when Marcus and Christina lived here. Back then, I was lonely in a crowded house, invisible in my own home. Now, I'm alone, but I'm seen, by myself, if no one else. If you're listening to this story and you see yourself in it, if you're the one bending and compromising and disappearing piece by piece, I want you to know something. You deserve to take up space. You deserve to be heard. You deserve to live in your own home without feeling like a guest. Whether it's a child, a partner, a friend, or anyone else, no one has the right to make you small. Standing up for yourself doesn't make you selfish. It makes you human. Will there be consequences? Probably. Some people won't understand. Some relationships might end. It might hurt more than you can imagine, but staying small hurts too. And that pain doesn't end. It just grows quieter until you don't even notice it anymore, until you forget what it felt like to take a full breath. I'm 72 years old. I spent the first 70 years of my life taking care of everyone else. I'm spending the rest of my life taking care of me, and you know what? I sleep better now than I have in decades. To Marcus, if you're somehow hearing this, I hope you've learned from what happened. I hope you'll teach Emma about boundaries and respect and standing up for yourself. I hope you'll be the father, the man I always believed you could be. The door isn't closed forever, but it's only open on my terms now. And to anyone out there who thinks I was wrong, who thinks family should stick together no matter what, who thinks I should have been more forgiving, more understanding, more accommodating, I respect your opinion, but I don't share it, and I don't need to. This is my story, my house, my life, and I'm not apologizing for fighting to keep it. My name is Mee Patterson. I'm 72 years old. I live alone in a 3-bedroom ranch house on Maple Street. I tend my garden, have coffee with Dorothy on Thursday mornings, and talk to my granddaughter twice a month in the park. I'm not bitter, I'm not broken, I'm not lonely, I'm free, and if there's one thing I want you to take away from my story, it's this: it's never too late to choose yourself. It's never too late to say enough. It's never too late to remember who you were before everyone else needed you to be something different. You matter, your peace matters, your home, whatever form it takes matters. Don't wait as long as I did to figure that out. Thank you for listening to my story. If this resonated with you, I'd love to hear about your experiences in the comments. And remember, every story has a lesson, and yours might be just beginning. Take care of yourselves, and don't forget, sometimes the bravest thing you can do is simply refuse to disappear. This is me signing off.